I'm Rick Arthur. This is Wayfarer TV. Uh, um, so Wayfarer, we've got two tours up right now. The Malibu, our premiere tour, our first tour, and Hollywood, which is up and is great. We're still improving that every day. One of the tours in the hopper right now is our Salt Lake City to Park City tour, and that is being written by the great Ty Turley. And we wanted to do this as just a chat to see how that tour was coming and what you thought of that tour, like what were your favorite parts of writing it, and what are you looking forward to most about getting it up? So Ty, like, can you tell us about yourself and then talk about the tour a little bit?
Yeah, thanks, Rick, for having me on. I've been working on the Park City one. Well, I guess I got in touch with you guys a year ago. I'm a writer and a filmmaker usually, so it's fun to do an audio piece. And I work in New York City on documentaries and on fiction, comedy, TV, writing it. And I also make location-based augmented reality pieces. And so I was interested in, I think Wayfarer is doing really interesting things with location-based audio that could be very exciting for, I feel like it's out in front of what's happening. So it's anticipating where podcasting is going, where travel is going. So I'm really excited by that combination of storytelling with new technology. That's what attracted me to Wayfarer to begin with. And I am now working on the Park City tour, like you said. We're going to be following three main stories as a driver goes from the Salt Lake City airport to Park City. And we're going to take the driver on a slightly off the beaten path route up a smaller canyon where there's a little more history that happened. But then they'll end up at the ski resorts in Park City by the end. And this could be for someone who's going skiing. It could be for someone who's coming in the summer to do the mountain biking. Park City has a lot of amazing mountain biking in the summer. And it could be for someone who's coming for Sundance. It's a big draw, obviously. And Sundance is one of our main stories, one of the three. We talk about how Robert Redford kind of fell in love with Utah, married a local girl, a Utahn, and bought Sundance Mountain Resort, and then ended up spending a lot of time here, was connected to the Utah film industry through his wife, and eventually got invited to be on the board of directors of this brand new film festival in 1978 that ended up morphing into the Sundance Film Festival. That probably has been my favorite story to research, just because Robert Redford's such an interesting guy. And he got a baseball scholarship to go to the University of Colorado, and he was born in Los Angeles. So he'd be driving through Utah on his way back and forth to Colorado, and he actually failed out after 1 year. But those drives had a big impression on him. He fell in love with the Wasatch Mountains, which is the range that goes through Park City. So I think that's really cool. It's just cool to imagine him as a young, aspiring, he doesn't know he's going to be a success yet, actor driving through the mountains and thinking, I want to live here if I can.
So when you're doing, how many times have you done the drive, or in your research, are you still at the point where you don't necessarily have to do the drive? You're just, because you know it already, and you're really researching the stories of the characters, and then later on you'll be researching the road itself and putting the marks of the actual waypoints in the route. So have you gotten on the road much yet?
Yeah, I've done that drive. Well, I actually do that drive pretty regularly anyway. I was just telling you, I went camping this weekend and went on that exact route, just because I live here and I have a lot of friends in Park City. So I probably once a week do that drive. But but I also, I decided early on, maybe it's because I'm a filmmaker, but I drove with my camera mounted on my dashboard and just drove the route so that I have a video of it. And so eventually, the first version I would like, because you guys aren't in Utah, I'd like to send you the narration over that video so you can see what people potentially would be seeing during the tour. So yeah, and you know, one of the exciting things about Wayfarer is you got to write it to match the visual location. So I would say that's primary. And yeah, I'm definitely thinking, what is the driver seeing? How can I put that into the story in an engaging way?
You know, that one of the things that occurred to me after working on the first tour, the Malibu tour, is it sort of distilled in my mind what I eventually, like, it got clear in my mind what like a perfect waypoint would be. And the first thing is to connect with the user about like something that the user is seeing. So to say, like, first, like, hey, you see that Sawtooth Mountain up on your left? And then you want to give the user half a second to register it and find it. And eventually we'll actually have a pop-up photo. So if the phone's mounted on the dash, or if you have CarPlay or the Google one later on, you'll hear the audio about the mountain. You'll see a picture on the phone, and then you'll be able to go like to see it. And that connection, I think, or that process establishes a real connection between the user, whenever the user arrives there, and the writer. And you know, it reminds me a little bit of I took political or rhetorical leadership class by David Gergen, and once, and you know, he always talked about how your job as if you're giving a speech, if you're a politician, or if you're trying to connect the people, was the first thing you want to do is connect over a value, the common value. And then once you've established that connection, then you can talk to the audience about what it is that your policy or whatever it is you're interested in and getting their support for. So I thought that, like, in a way, we're doing the same thing. We're just establishing it through a visual reference.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think it's true that you have, I mean, I loved what you said about giving it a second to pause and how that connects the writer to the viewer, because that's very exciting to me to think, you know, it's really, you care a lot about the user. Yeah. In that setting, you want to bring them along. You want them to have things that you share, like you said.
Yeah. Well, and it's really the interesting thing is how much, you know, the user is almost like, you know, there are our audience. There are, in a way, we have to really care for them and be very attuned to sort of what kind of frustrations they might be having at that moment, so that we can, you know, or maybe like frustrations or curiosities. And if we do, I think if we do our job right, we're sort of creating an itch, and then scratching it, maybe right away, or maybe we're delaying that itch, or delaying the scratch. And so I think it really is storytelling. It's fascinating. So tell me about some of the other characters that you're writing about.
Yeah. Because we have this focus on Salt Lake and Park City, I was living in Utah in 2002 when they had the Olympics, and we wanted to tell a story that had to do with the Olympics and bring that in. It's a big part of the history here. People talk about it still all the time, and there are some great stories. So we're gonna tell the story of Vanetta Flowers, who was the first Black female gold medalist in the Olympics. She was a track athlete, University of Alabama, and was at the national track meet that was qualifying for Olympics in track and field. And she didn't qualify, but her husband, who was also a runner, saw a flyer, hey, try out for the bobsled team. and they both did. Actually, he didn't make the team, but she did. And a couple of years later, she shot to the top. She was instantly very good, and was on the bobsled team that got the gold medal at the Salt Lake Olympics in Park City at the Utah Olympic Park is what the location's called. And so you drive right by the Utah Olympic Park and see the track where she won. So we're going to tell her story, how she did switch from track and field, created history.
That's great. That's great. That is awesome. And then there's the third story is about the Mormon pioneers. Is there a specific pioneer that you're going to talk about, or just talk about the movement and how they arrived in Salt Lake City?
I've been planning to focus on Brigham Young. He was the leader or prophet of the Mormons when they did that cross-country trek. And he was there. As you take the drive, you pass a place that's called, you passed Temple Square is what it's called in downtown Salt Lake, where it's the headquarters of the church now. And you see the temple that's really, really old. Then you also pass a park that's called This Is the Place Monument, where Brigham Young came through the mountains, through the Wasatch Mountains, saw the valley for the first time. It's kind of up high, saw the Salt Lake Valley, and said, this is the place we're going to settle. They were looking for a new home. So we tell that story, the number of pioneers that were walking and taking wagons and coming across. And
that's incredible. I cannot wait for this tour. I can't wait to take it. My fantasy is that I spend the rest of my life just going and taking tours that we're doing and expensing it.
Yes, that would be amazing.
And this is one of the ones I can't wait to do. Hopefully it's up for Sundance and for the winter season. And really excited by what you're doing, Ty. And thank you so much for being part of this team and this effort. And I can't wait for this tour and the other ones you do. So
thanks, Rick. Yeah.
Thank you so much for chatting with me a little bit this morning and on this Sunday. And have a great rest of your weekend. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks. You too.
All right. Cheers, brother.